What's up, YouTube? Lee here from Card Games United with Andre behind the camera, giving you a quick deck profile on my Kagero build.
Boo.
So he's booing because I didn't actually build this very well.
Am I?
He knows
I wasn't booing it.
He knows that it should be better, that I should be kicking his butt more with this deck, but I'm weak. I wanted to play what I wanted to play. There are a couple tech choices that are just, things I like. So we'll go over those when we get to them. I have out my lovely 8 force markers, obvious starter, obvious triggers. Here. Right here. They all go right here. Or maybe a little bit over here.
Oh. 5 Kai markers. Well, yeah, 4 Kai markers and 1 Overlord marker.
Yeah, just cause. The other Overlord markers in the Royal Paladin deck. 4 draw trigger PGs.
Kind of standard.
8 crit 4 heal.
I guess the only thing you really
only starter you can run.
I guess the only thing you really could do with the trigger lineup is run more draws, but
why would you?
Yeah.
So grade 3s. We got ourselves 4 copies of Dragonic Waterfall. If you don't know what he does, on ride, retire a grade 2 or greater. Or is it grade 2 or greater or grade 2 or less?
It's grade 2 or greater.
Grade 2 or greater, yeah. I thought so. Retire grade 2 or greater, and on attack, Soul Blast a grade 3. Your opponent cannot call Sentinels, and he gets 10 counter crit. So this dude is just your big finishing swing. That's part of the reason why when you keep rewriting in Kagero, you always want to put your force markers on the Vanguard every time, because then this dude can come out and just clean up.
It also does pretty well against the OTT matchup, just because
that is one of the things that makes Kagero so relevant, is that they do handle the OTT matchup fairly well, just because if you can get to 1 or 2 of these, you can kill them, whereas other decks kind of can't.
I think it's all worth noting, though, that this card kind of sucks as a first ride, like kind of just being stuck on it.
He kind of does. I have a couple options in the deck to help him not suck as much, but yeah, it's kind of unavoidable.
I mean, you run it as a 4, though, there's no question.
Well, I could see maybe running like a Cruel Dragon or something like that, and like bumping him down to 3 or something like that, but it's likely a 4 of, as is this. 4 copies, Dragonic Overlord.
This is the card I think you probably want to ride first, right?
This is the card you want to ride first. This is the card you want to be on until you are ready to Waterfall. The restand is sort of middling in quality, but it can be good for a lot of aggressive pressure, especially early on.
He's not a bad rearguard, actually, though.
He's not a bad rearguard, assuming you have the soul, which is... you don't.
Because this doesn't have any soul charging.
Yay. That's why I could see you maybe bumping down Waterfall by a copy or 2, so you could fit in the grade 3 that soul charges.
Is that Cruel Dragon, or is it Vortex?
Cruel Dragon? It's Cruel Dragon, yeah. He's not a great card, so I don't run him, but I could see you trying to run him just because
now, if
this
you
deck
did
does
want
want
to
some
technical
soul
Cruel
charging.
Dragon, why would you not want to cut Overlord and keep Waterfall at 4?
Because getting stuck on Waterfall essentially means that you've lost the game.
That's true. Whereas Overlord always has that constant threat of the restand.
And if you can have something in Soul, he can get the +10, which means he's usually live. Next up, we have our grade 2, starting out with 4 copies of Berserk Dragon. So I geared this deck to have a lot of retire power, because that's just how I like to play. I like to play control. And Berserk Dragon is one of the key pieces for retire power, because he can pop anything. And he also has the benefit of, if you ride him turn 2, you get a draw.
So you can click something and draw something, so this is a very good card to, like, well, your ideal grade 2 ride is.
You don't usually get to cook and draw, because usually the opponent will just ride and attack and not call a rear guard, because they know you're going to ride this, because they know you're going to ride this, because this gets you a draw when you ride it, so why wouldn't you ride it?
I believe it also gets you 3k when you retires. Oh, if you have more.
No. It's just as a rear guard, it swings for 13.
So that's a nice effect. It can swing at a force Vanguard all on its
own.
Yep.
Just a nice independent attacker in addition to being some high quality retire power. Next up, continuing the theme of retire power, we have 4 copies of Dragon Knight Nahalem. So on call, counterblast, pop a back row, and he gets 5k. He's good.
It's simple.
It's good. It's simple. I think so, but again, I was very prescient about the fact that I wanted to play a lot of retire power, so maybe if I'd been looking more into what's really aggressive or things like that, I might have found something that I wanted to play more, but I just wanted to play.
I hate when I'm playing Novas.
I just wanted to play control.
I hate when I play Novas against you and you use this guy to like retire my Riser custom.
Yeah, boy.
That's annoying.
Next up, we have the card that is probably the wrong card to play, but I wanted to play it. So, 3 copies of Flame of Destruction, Verbiti.
Now that's an interesting card. I guess explain his effect first.
So, act CB2, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, and this unit gets 3k. As a Vanguard or rear guard.
It can hit a non-force Vanguard all on its own after it uses the effect.
Or if you use 2 and have an 8k booster, it's 23. Because I have actually had that happen before.
It is important to note that its retire ability is an axe skill, so unlike Nahalem and Berserk Dragon, who only cook something on place, this guy just always exists as that option to cook something just for being there. So I can see why you'd want to play this card.
Like I said, I wanted to play this as heavily in terms of control as I could. There are a couple of other options that are probably better if you want to play this more, say, competitively. There's Belliscosity, who gets 5k when something's retired. There's that other tier dragon grade 2 that can slip into soul to retire something. I think that's what he does.
I see a lot of the builds play that guy from the trial deck. It's just like I gain 5k for having more rear guards than your opponent.
Which is also an option. Like, this guy is not the most aggressive card, but it does help me play control. And I wanted to play control.
Any downsides to ever having to ride him as a 9k?
No.
Force Clan?
Not really. Like, unless your opponent is playing Novas with the perfect hand, because they're not going to assume you're going to have a 9k Vanguard, so there's not much they can plan to do about it.
And even then, if you do hit a damage deck trigger anyways, that kind of
makes it irrelevant.
They try to rush you.
Also, he's the 3-of, so you're not that likely to ride him in the first place. And you always want to be riding Belliscosity Dragon. So next up, we do have an automatic 4-of. We have Flame of Hope Airmo.
This card's the reason why Kagero actually has some decent resource management.
Sort of. He's not very good as far as a resource management card, but the fact that he's a consistent booster and also a mediocre resource management card makes him good enough to run.
I don't really think you have anything else to run, honestly.
Yeah, that's kind of welcome to V-Series. Yay!
Don't you wish that he could soul charge as well?
Yes, I very much do. But they decided to make him retire instead of go into the soul, which... Okay, Bushi, whatever you want. Next up, we have 4 copies of Embodiment of Armor Bar.
Oh god, this card's annoying.
So he's another Counterblast, Soul Blast, on-call Papa thing. He also gets 5k if you have more rear guards. And he's Embodiment of Armor Bar. So I had to run him. At 4. End of story.
You ever feel that though?
End of story.
Oh.
He's Embodiment of Armor Bar. No, go on. What were you going to say?
You ever feel that maybe the Soul Blast card, maybe the Soul Blast as part of its cost could mean that you don't use this effect as much as you would like?
Oh, absolutely. I find oftentimes you don't use his effect, but like I said, I played the things I wanted to play. He had to retire, and he's a card I liked back in the day. So
I think this is an automatic 4-of as well.
I doubt it, just because Soul Blast is so expensive, it means that you almost never use his effect.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are trying to build it more competitively, I bet he bumps down to 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I played this deck the way I wanted to play it. Next up, we have 3 copies of Raupia and 3 copies of Dominance Dragon.
So these are basically your big beat sticks for when you cook things and they gain power.
This guy just swings for 13, pretty much almost always, which is really good. He works well in early game. He gives you just more attackers so that they can't be trying to curb your aggression. This guy helps, especially if you can just fill your back column with him. And then even if you end up riding Waterfall, it's not that bad because at least you're boosting these guys up by 5.
Yeah.
And with all the retire power I have in the deck, this guy could easily get like 10k a turn. So, nice. But the reason I put these both out at once is because there's probably some people screaming at the screen right now, why is he not running Gaius? So that was my deck profile. Remember to slap your mother with a fish.
I guess, yeah. Why aren't you running Gaius?
Okay, the reason I'm not running Gaius is because I don't like Gaius. It probably does appear in the more competitive build of the deck because...
I've never seen it run more as like a 1-of, though.
Because he does help Waterfall to finish. But I don't like him. End of story.
I've actually seen most builds only run him as like a 1-of as well.
Yeah, because he's costly.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that most decks do try to keep at least a tech of him just so that Waterfall can guarantee the close.
In terms, I guess, of like the deck's ability to perform in the meta, where would you place it right now?
It's definitely very high, because first off, it does have that big selling point of being one of the few decks that can arguably counter OTT. And it is also, even with the sets we know out in Japan right now, the only V-Series control deck, so...
I think which is why it seems to have some lasting power even as more sets come out.
Because there's not a lot of decks that can do what it does.
Do you worry about any of the new decks coming out in terms of like Kagero's ability to fight against them?
I haven't really read a lot of the Tachikaze effects carefully enough to know if they still hard counter this or if they're all your turn restricted, but it's possible that if the Tachikaze effects are just, like when retired, they will hard counter this, which would be irritating. I think you're going to have a lot of issues fighting stuff like DP and Spike Brothers, because this deck doesn't really have a good way to dig for its PGs, and even if it does have PGs, it doesn't really add enough to hand in order to confidently play them. So that's part of the reason why, despite the OTT matchup being favorable to a degree, it's not completely in your favor, because you have to get to the Waterfall, and if they're starting to apply pressure to you before that, you don't have a lot of defensive presence.
How's the Royal Paladin matchup?
The Royal Paladin matchup, this deck hates. Because Royal Paladin just simply do not care. You pop all their stuff, they're like, okay, I'll just call more stuff and get draws off of it. Have fun. It is honestly just very bad for this, and it really has to work to get the win.
Nova Grappler.
This slaughters Nova Grappler.
Have you lost to a Nova Grappler deck with this deck?
I don't think I have with this deck. I think the only time I've lost to Nova Grappler was when they were Miracle Healing, which was irritating as fuck, but it's a story for another day.
I guess overall, though, this seems to be a deck with tier 1 staying power, even as new stuff comes out.
Right, because it does have a lot of unique capabilities that are valuable, especially in the meta.
But also, it's the only control deck we have, Bushiroad. Why couldn't you make Mega Combo control Bushiroad?
Because Bushiroad hates me, duh.
If actually Mega Colony was a control protect clan, I might have actually got them.
But until probably like Link Joker come out, or Narukami, depending which happens first, this is it. Enjoy.
I guess anything you'd like to see improved in future sets?
Well, we do have the mini booster coming out, so there's a lot of possibility for them to improve the deck. And like I said, I built this deck in a way I wanted to, in a way I thought it would be very fun and enjoyable for me. So I don't really care that much if things get better, because I'm not really optimizing it at this point. So if they want to print more hilarious and fun cards, I'd be fine with that. Novell could be hilarious and fun, and I would definitely be in favor of that.
Do you feel it needs a Soul Charger?
I could definitely use a Soul Charger. Other
than that, though, seems like this deck will be solid for days to come.
Indeed. Your lucky number is 6,000. Have a good night. Slap your mother with a fish.